Hello everyone, welcome to the Rashid Salleh show, or the RSS for short, with me, obviously Rashid Salleh. And I have a new partner who is Jason Sim, also known as the Kuchingite. For those of you who want to know what the Kuchingite is all about, check out his Facebook, which is called the Kuchingite itself. So you've been around for quite a while already, isn't it? Anyway, check it out. So the point of me having this podcast is because now I'm based in Kuching, Sarawak, and basically what we want to talk about is Sarawak and pretty much Borneo and how things are hopefully going to be moving ahead in the future now that Sarawak is a region. Plus we'll be talking about anything to do with Sarawak, anything to do with what's going on this side of the world and this side of Malaysia. Is that correct?
Yeah, correct.
And he's going to be my, basically going to be asking me a lot of questions, also giving his opinions, because obviously he's been living here longer than I have.
But if you don't mind, I'll be taking over and asking the questions now.
Here we go.
I mean, first of all, for the benefit of the audience and those rare people who don't know who Rashid Salleh is, can you just give a quick rundown on who the hell Rashid Salleh is?
Okay, so basically, in terms of my professional career, I started my career on stage. I actually was part of Actor Studio. I got trained at Actor Studio. I actually did my first commercial at the age of 18. Now, when I was 18, this was in 1990. So a lot of you
You're old.
Yeah. But still look young. And then I got my big break in television in a TV series called Kopitiam, which now you call it viral, but it became a very, very famous TV sitcom. And it ran concurrently with the TV series Friends in America. But it was very, very popular in
we all
Malaysia.
know Kopitiam.
I mean, you guys know, but the younger generation, they're like, they weren't even born then. So
it's on View, is it? Or Netflix? It's on Netflix.
Well, it was on Netflix, but the latest season, which is Kopitiam Double Shot, is on View. Obviously, I've also acted in film as well. I've also been I joined ESPN as a sportscaster or a presenter and a broadcast journalist. I also was part of one of the pioneers, I guess, of Astro Arena, which is a 24-hour Malay sports channel on Astro. And I've worked in Timor-Leste. I write, I am a producer, I'm a TV director, I do comedy, improv, as well as stand-up. That's something I'll probably be doing in the future again, stand-up. Plus, I now run also a PR company here in Kuching, Sarawak, called Rashomon PR. But that's in a nutshell. I mean, throughout this whole thing, that's a quite big nut. Thank you.
So, obviously you've been to KL, Timor-Leste, Singapore. It's quite an accomplished career. What brought you all the way back to your home state?
I'm as of this recording, I'm 52 years old. I wanted to come back probably 2 decades ago in my 30s. I had actually shot a TV program in my mid-30s. This was prior to joining ESPN. And we did an adventure program called Extreme Benar with the help of Sarawak Tourism Board at the time, who helped us in terms of running the production. That was the first time I thought, wow, I saw the potential of my work, or rather the business of production growing in the state. But then I got pulled back, and then I joined ESPN, and then sort of forgotten. And then in my 40s, when I was married, I was here again for another production, which went on for about 5 seasons, called Mima. It was a mixed martial arts reality TV program.
Right.
And we shot a couple of it in, a couple of the seasons, or 1 or 2 episodes in Sarawak and as well as Sabah. And I saw, from a sporting point of view, the potential of the talents that we have, and also sports people that we had in Sarawak. And I thought, oh, this would be great. But then I got pulled away again and then went on to do other stuff. And then in 2021, this was during COVID, I had a call actually. Actually, it was a call and an email asking me if I wanted to direct a sitcom. By this time, TVS had already been established in 2020. I saw all the hype about the TV station. And it's great that we have our own TV station because it's really hard to get a license for a TV station. And I thought, wow, now it's probably the right time to come back because, someone like me who's had decades of experience, I'd love to contribute and come back and do this. And it just so happened, in April 2021, got that contact from a friend, and who's they're good friends now, wanting me to direct one a sitcom, and another one was a telemovie. Obviously, the budgets were really, really low, but for me, it was like, no, this was the opportunity for me to be able to go back and say, let's see what the landscape's like. And I came and arrived here August 30th, 2021. I was quarantined for 2 weeks in Riverside Hotel, Imperial Riverside, for 2 weeks. The one next to Riverbank Suites.
Oh, yes, next to
the Imperial. It was literally the same building. And for those 2 weeks, I mean, I was happy. We were quarantined for 2 weeks, but in those 2 weeks, while I was also exercising and just basically planning out my whole thing. And it was so funny because the moment I got out, 2 weeks later, went to Wisma Bapa and for another job, a smaller one. And from then on, there was this whirlwind of things. And I realized throughout the stuff that I was doing when I was producing, or rather directing the production, that we had a lot of talent, but the one thing that we're sorely or severely lacking is experience, because you cannot be improved if you're not given the experience. I literally, the first production we did was an Iban sitcom, and it was just, there are very few of us left in terms of TV directors who do sitcoms anyway. And then doing a sitcom in Iban, everyone thought I was mad, especially my friends from across the water. They were like, are you crazy for doing this? But in hindsight, it was great because although it was a very short period of shooting, but the pre-production, the production, post-production, I got to see how our people in our industry work and how terribly underexperienced they were. But I was also glad because I managed to get them to work together. Those who've never, I had a crew who had never done multiple camera production, or we call it MCP, have never done, we had an art department team who was so used to doing just events, but not TV broadcasting. And we're talking about TV broadcasting, not just any shoot. And a crew that was, and a cast who had two of them who had relative experience in TV, but the rest were all, they're essentially stage performers, comedians, stage performers. But by hook and by crook, we got everyone working together. And it was a fun shoot. It was very stressful because we had a very limited amount of time to shoot, and we managed to complete it. And at the same time, managed to deliver the whole product to TVS by the allocated time, I think. And we did all the, literally it was a compressed learning process. And I realized that, goodness, our people really we've got talented people. It's just that I think the mistake when West Malaysians come over is like, oh, they're too slow. They're slow because they haven't been given the tools or the experience to learn. And a lot of times, and this is where I get very annoyed because I've seen this with my own eyes, where we are the anak tirikan, we're always because we're not put in positions in production to learn, where we're put as runners. So, simple stuff so they're not in the way of production. And I don't think that's fair because you're coming to us, I can't say state anymore, we're coming to our region. We should, as an entity, and now part of this association called Collective Film Sarawak, where we're going to push for, so any production that will comes in, and this is just a plan at the moment, any production that comes in, you must transfer the knowledge from wherever you are, so that we gain the knowledge and be able to learn under experienced people, so that we in turn can have quality productions. Because right now, and from what I hear, and I don't know whether this is hearsay, prior to this, a lot of the productions were, they were given the budget, but they didn't realize how much work that was needed to be done. And, we have, and it's not anyone's fault, we had a lot of people who were, wedding photographers or wedding videographers. I don't know why people still use that. A cameraman who did not have broadcast knowledge. I did a magazine program, and not to belittle the cameraman, but I was using very simple words like can you like tilt up and down? Can you tilt? And he just looked at me and goes, huh? I said, pan tilt. Do you know what pan tilt is? And they're like, no. I'm like, oh.
It's very industry standard like instructions.
Well, it's very, tilt. And I went out, and I actually went, yes, like this. This is tilt, up and down tilt. No, it's pan, left and right. And that's just the simple stuff. Let's not go into like framing and colors. Lighting and all that. That's another ballgame altogether. Photographers pick up very fast because a lot of photographers use a lot of lighting. So for someone to call yourself a DOP, even I have friends who've been in the business for a long time. They're too scared to call themselves director of photography because it is actually it's a big task. But apparently we have quite a number of DPs or DOPs here.
Obviously you had a lot of experience in like KL and West Malaysia and stuff like that. Was it when we talk about this, the know-how, right? Did a lot of it come like organically, or was there like a lot of top-down like government intervention and like in terms of like bringing up the industry? How much of it was like grown organically, like or is our government not doing enough?
No, I think FINAS, and this is where I'm now part of the FINAS, the Sarawak Ecosystem Committee for FINAS, Sarawak. Now, if we look at it generally, FINAS has actually done a good job in terms of getting out the courses and all that. Unfortunately, prior to this, not enough was coming to our side, meaning Sabah and Sarawak. Sabah are even more...
as in courses?
As in courses. Yeah. Actually, there's lots and lots of courses. The one thing that was really good last time, and this was a credit to TV3, TV3 used to have an academy. So they churn out, they specifically for production. So they had, guys who were working behind the scenes, training behind the scenes. They had courses and did that, and that was doing well. I don't know why.
Was this only in KL?
Yes, only in KL. Oh. But so a lot of people came. Yeah. But in those days, it was flying to KL and living in KL, as you know, you lived and worked in KL. Yeah. It's exorbitant. It's not easy. Once you go, it's like you're leaving for good.
Yeah.
And this is not just, and for me, I moved at a very young age, but I used to compare it to when I was also working abroad as well. So when I was working in ESPN, I was in Singapore and Malaysia, but I traveled around the world and watched all the stuff. So we were more exposed to stuff. So a lot of my stuff were on-the-job training. Yes, we did some courses when we were able to. Acting, because I was in theatre, and there's a theatre scene in Kuala Lumpur. Oh. There is no theatre scene here. So it's not anyone's fault. Yes, there is Majlis Seni Sarawak, but it's just, it's very, it's in one spot, and we've got to be able to be, we have a lot of people who do cultural dances. That's all art.
Yeah.
So we must, and I'm glad that the government now have announced, that the old Dun is going to be the new performing arts center. But is it just going to be the theatre? Will there be? They should have a look at KL PAC, KL Performing Arts Center. The minister goes. You should, if they want, I'll get them in contact, and then they have a look at what a theatre looks like. Not Istana Budaya, but KL Performing Arts Centre, because there are training rooms, there's everything there, and that will give you an idea what a performing arts centre will look like. And it's beautiful. I mean, it's sponsored by I can't remember his name, but a developer, and it's run by Dato' Farida, American, and I call him Datin. Joe Hasham.
I thought you would say I call Farida.
No, Dato' Farida. And Joe Hasham is like one of our mentors for theatre, at Actor Studio last time. So we need one, obviously the infrastructure, but more importantly, I think it's being able to have more courses. So we have all these mini film festival that's happening in July that I'm part of. I've managed to convince, or rather, we've managed to convince Dato' Afrin Shauki. Oh, this is supposed to be a secret. Well, too late now. He'll be coming over to help me do a workshop on directing actors, and he's the he's the president of the FDM, which is the Film Directors Association Malaysia. So, you've got any questions about film director or the direction? You're gonna have the man there. He's also a stand-up comedian, a singer, blah blah blah. He knows the business inside out. And he's someone that, we need more of these experienced people to come over to give these kind of talks, to be able to share their experiences, and not just me, because one man is, alone cannot do all the work. But with the network I have, this is where we are able to bring in more experienced people in, and not just it's not for my benefits, but it's basically to get people to be able to do all this stuff and learn from the industry, experienced people, so that it'll open their eyes and goes, hang on a minute, there's actually more to this than just.
When you spoke of potential, like when you look at Sarawak, was there something that like you've known for a long time, or did something just like caught your eye, or did something stuck out for a long time? Or what was it about, like the potential that you saw here?
Well, actually, it's not just potential, but for Sarawak to be so diverse, culturally diverse, is already, there's some abundance of talent, because you just look, it's like Sabahans are known for the singing. We are actually also known for our singing as well. I mean, the amount of karaoke in Kuching itself, come on, and you've heard all these people. I mean, we don't go to that many karaokes, but, the people who actually sing, and I've been so just like, we should have TVS should have a singing talent show, a proper one, because we've got a heck of a lot of talented singers out there. Bands, we love our, there's not that many around anymore. I mean, live bands, because let's not even talk about sports. I haven't even gone down that road, because I've seen the amount of juniors and young athletes and sportsmen that are just wow, But we're very traditional in that sense of, studies come first, blah, 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 let's make money. But one thing I've noticed is that we do, it's not just potential, it's actually there. The potential is to be able to develop them. Are they willing to be developed and chase their dreams? Do they believe in that they can do it? Yes, I do, but do they need to be convinced? And usually it's speaking to the parents and saying, hey, because I'll give you an example. When I was with NTV7, I was doing the breakfast show. This was back in, was the first stint in 2005-06, before I joined ESPN. And I had a phone call from my father saying that, there's this boy who's done, he's had a degree and all that, and wanted to come in and work at NTV7. He's from Sarawak. I said, yeah, okay, bring him his CV and all that. And we saw him like, oh, great, should offer him this local job. I mean, yes, it was through me and all that. Last minute, I get a phone call from him, the boy, saying, I can't come over because, was it my girlfriend wouldn't let me? Or, and it was like, what a waste. You don't have to come, if you don't like it, then you can come back. But you're not even trying.
Yeah.
That saddens me. And now there's so many opportunities for people to do this, especially now social media. You got influencers and all that. But the TV industry is very, very different. I mean, how you still stuff now, everything's on OTT, but the way things are done is very different to how we do it, like, with just a phone and all that, how we're shooting now. But you've got to go through that process. You've got to be, so that you understand the basics of what filming is all about, then you worry about everything else. I mean, we can have all good ideas, great stories and all that, but you can have a great location, but if you don't know how to shoot it, it's all going to be really bad. So you've got to have the fundamentals there. And how do we do that? I don't know. When we have the Performing Arts Center, does that mean that, that we should have more knowledge transfer? Or do we just say, build the thing just for theatre productions? International theatre productions come in.
For someone like looking to go into like acting, like on TV and stuff like that, just looking back at your past, when was the point where you actually thought, oh, this is actually a viable career which I could get paid for? And then are the conditions like right for the same situation, or are you saying it's a lot better because of social media and awareness and things like that? I mean, if a Sarawakian wants to be an actor into the arts and stuff like that, do they still have to go to KL? Do they still, and what do they need? Is it a role of TVS and the government to really like set the conditions right for a career like this?
No, I mean you can't be waiting, saying when the conditions is right, that's what will happen. I tell you this. I mean, acting is probably number 2 to prostitution in terms of like the hardest job in the world.
Okay.
I mean, it's the oldest. Acting is probably the oldest, and it is. Prostitution probably will.
Yeah, that's a clip right there.
Yeah, I know. But like any dreams that you want to chase, what you asked me, like, when did I know? I actually didn't. I was still working at the time. I was working in events. I took a sabbatical to shoot the first season of Kopitiam. Took 3 months off. It was madness. I'm like, no paid leave. Because I just wanted to see whether, I said no paid leave, but I was being paid anyway it wasn't much. Yeah. And people said, I was like, no. We were young. But you know what? I realized that I enjoyed doing it. I thought I was good at it. And I think that the fact that the show became very popular also changed the way I thought, you know what? This could be a career. And when I took the plunge, taking the plunge in 2000 was when I quit my job. I remember telling my mother, and the first thing she was like, where are you going to get your monthly salary? I said, I don't know. I really don't know. I mean, I was literally just going out there but this is what I tell everyone, you've got to challenge yourself. If you don't, you'll be forever going to be stuck wondering if what, do you want to have your regrets, or do you want to go out there? There are very few people who are willing to just go and do it. Because, I don't want to live with regret. But at the same time, I don't have any regrets. Yes, we have had like ups and downs. I mean, there were times where I was barely scraping and wondering where I was going to get my next, money from. But if you have the mindset where you go, doesn't matter, I'm going to succeed, it actually works. And, you just got to really have that, doesn't matter what career. It's just that with acting, I mean, even in KL, it's really tough. Here, it's even worse because there's not enough opportunities yet. And I say yet, because if we build it properly, the system, I can guarantee, because Borneo is a big island, the opportunities just to work in Borneo itself and to build your career there, if we have the right infrastructure, if we help develop the industry, is massive. So it's just a matter of just people like me now help build that ecosystem so that we can, instead of the brain drain, we're attracting the best brains back from Sarawak, or back to Sarawak.
So obviously you've worked with like Astro, like big companies like ESPN, in the broadcast game for a long, long time. So recently you did a sitcom for TVS, right? 2 actually. Yeah. Can you compare your experiences with TVS and the ones in West Malaysia and Singapore?
You're gonna shoot me now. You know what? TVS is very young. I'm not. This is not criticism of the station or anything. I love, like I said, I love the fact that we have our own station now. I love the fact that we are now, the world's our oyster.
Yeah.
We are so lucky, and I don't think people really realize. We harp on about it, in tourism, blowpipe, blah blah. We've got all this diverse. We do. On top of that, and there quite a number of young filmmakers, and I call them young because they're all younger than me anyway.
Oh.
They're doing stuff they're doing their own programs on for TVS. Some of the stuff is really good. Unfortunately, it's just not promoted, because it was promoted well, and that's one thing that's really lacking at TVS at the moment. We fail to promote our own brand properly. We initially, when I was told in 2020 was launched, and this was when the CEO was Shahmi Sulaiman, and it was supposed to be modeled like Channel News Asia in Singapore. So it was going to be a news channel. I said, great, at least they have a direction.
Yeah.
And then somewhere along the line, I think it got convoluted, something changed and became more entertainment. But there was no, I felt in the last 2 years, in the last year and a half rather, well, 2 years now, there is no direction. And then, there was another CEO, Rizal, and now we have a local CEO, Haji Kushari, who started in I think November or October, officially took over anyway. And the first thing we saw was the change in the logo. I still wonder what was the reasoning behind that, because it needs to be explained. Stuff like this, when you're in marketing, and what we do, I'm in PR and media and marketing. Whenever there's a brand change, it's a massive change. Whether you're changing the logo, you must explain it to the public. It's an opportunity for you as an entity to be able to explain to the public and go, this is what, and not make people speculate, because we are a media company.
Yeah.
And I say we because, actually it is owned by the right by Sarawakians, because we have a piece of it. The other thing that I feel that we TVS hasn't promoted itself much out in Sarawak itself. Now, for you to be able to draw people, or you got to make money, okay? You set up a Sundram Mahad not to just want to make money. Yes, obviously they may be getting money from the government, but you've got to prove within probably 2 years or 3 years, you either break even or you start making money. So your branding has to be strong. Your marketing definitely has to be strong. So within you must have I'm sure they have a 5-year or 10-year plan. They should. Any company should. You must have that. Because if you don't have that, then you're forever going to be like, just looking for the next week, what's happening, or next year, what we're going to do. I did ask this question once, very early on, a couple of years ago. I said, do you guys have I'm not going to mention the names. I said, do you have any 3-year plan? I said, oh no, we're thinking about next year. I kept my mouth shut because it's not my station. But as the person in the industry, and as a Sarawakian person in the industry, I'm like, hang on a minute, do you want our help? Do you want us to consult? I am at the stage where I'm here. I'm not going to go anywhere. I'm based now in Sarawak. Use me, because I would love to be able to see it. No one wants to see their own home be burnt down. You want to thrive in the home. You want to build a home, build strong foundations. You want to be able to be people proud to come to your home and go, hey, look at our home. TVS is our home. We have so much content that we can sell out into the world. And we've got people, Sarawakians, and this is outside of the network, who have dealt with TVS, who are saying, like, we've got content that we can sell out there.
So it's not an issue of lack of programming or people who trying to develop shows for TVS?
There's lots and lots of ideas. Like I said, it's just the experience. Right now, we need a lot more people with experience to be able to run the things, the productions properly. Because right now, what's I think in the past, what's happened is when they did commission the projects and the shows, a lot of it came from was collaborating with West Malaysian companies. So they benefit in terms of, the money outflow or money goes to West Malaysia.
Yeah.
Of course, we want to say yes. We want to keep everything mostly Sarawakian and then, build from here. But we should be utilizing that money to build the infrastructure and the people first before But again, I'm not at TVS and I don't know what their plans are, and by no means is any criticism. But you got to tell us what is it you want. Do you need our help, or I hate I don't want to say it, but the word, I don't want people to be stupidly arrogant, and we're always in danger of having that, because we cannot be too proud and not ask for help. Because the best thing to do is ask for help, because you can get better and you can always improve from there. I've gone through so many productions where I've actually asked. I'll ask you, I don't know what I'm doing. Can you help me? Because if you don't, you'll be really stupid.
Do you have a general idea how general Sarawak content in general can differentiate itself from whatever that's shown in the other side?
Well, one is already language. We for years and years we've been watching telenovelas, Japanese anime, whatever. Now it's K-drama. Yeah. We're watching so much foreign language that we can create our own, and we have so many different. You could have a program, and this is one of the ideas I had, was like, do a sitcom where everyone's speaking different dialects and languages in one sitcom. Obviously it has to be funny and all that, but the stuff that can happen, and it happens in real life here.
Yeah.
But art imitates life, right? So you do content like that, people will go, wow, Sarawak's that diverse. We didn't know that. Because right now we're doing, everyone knows the Ibans, Budayus, or this. Yeah, but the strength is to put everything together and go, boom, by the way, this is what Sarawak's all about. Obviously, there are different ideas how to do it. Our strength is in our obviously our language, our strength in our culture. There's so many other stuff. You're doing stuff for a museum, and there's so much stuff out there, and stories that you've heard that can be, presented in visual art form.
Yeah.
And that's, broadcasting. And it's, there's a plethora. I can speak to some old dude and he'll be telling me stories, and I'll be like, wow.
Yeah.
What was Kuching like in the old days? How, many, many different, you don't have to get from people from outside. You can speak to the ministers, the older ministers, and what political life was like in Sarawak then and now. What's the difference, So there are lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of things that we can explore here. It's just that, where do you want to start? How do you want to do it? What's our strength? We've got to do all that, but we've got to do all the research. So that's what I mean by development of the industry. It's not just about, we've got to have the crew, we've got to have the actors, we've got to have the right researchers, we've got to have the right producers to think that, how do we convert what we have here into a visual art form? Because right now, what we have is, we have people who think they know what they're doing, but when you're producing an event and you're producing a TV show, it's different, very different, because you got to think like a TV broadcaster or a TV man.
Okay, this is a bit of a tangent, but somewhat related. But we have obviously seen a lot of issues when it comes to censorship. And then not even in movies, but even in even concerts, how Sarawak wants to be a bit different from West Malaysia in terms of what kind of content you can control. So just looking back experience, what are your experiences dealing with censorship? And do you feel that because of Sarawak's somewhat more liberal nature at least, that the censorship should be slightly different in terms of the kind of content we are allowed to make?
Wow. It's like, oh, shoot me already. Well, we're still governed by, by the censorship board in TV anyway of Malaysia. TVS is unique because we have this thing where you can't show tattoos, and last time it's like even in RTM you couldn't have a rock band on TV
real?
because you couldn't have long hair.
Yeah.
I mean,
Wow.
Singapore was like that last time. You couldn't come in like have long hair, and for years and years we had really great rock bands, but you'll see them in film, and even then we're like, okay. But definitely no, you see a lot of the teledramas and they're in a bar and you see the colored drinks. It's like who has drink syrup, and again, it's so silly, but it has evolved since then, and thankfully the censorship board is a lot more forgiving because you can't cut everything because now we have the OTTs, the platforms. You want to try and cut them? I mean, the government right now is trying to somehow circumvent that and see how they do censorship for OTTs. You can't, because it's really, really, really hard, because the world is changing. And the more you try and stop doing this, and this is what always happens, the more you try and stop people from doing stuff, the more people will do it. We've always had this nature. Malaysians are great in terms of being able to bend the rules. I mean, the amount of stuff that we do, and people from outside go, how the heck do you do that? It's like, well, because our laws are like this. So we have to learn how to navigate through it. I mean, we're already in a country where we have diverse cultures, and people from outside, Nelson Mandela learned a lot from how to govern South Africa by looking at Malaysia.
No, was that right?
Yeah.
Oh.
So because we had such a diverse culture, and the thing is, with censorship, it's you can say, oh, it's okay for one, and then the other group will go, no, this cannot. So who do you listen to? But you give a lot of power to a certain number of people who are supposed to be doing the censorship board. Last time they used to laugh at me because they used to tell me the censorship board, I don't know whether it's true or not. So some old Indian lady watching the show and saying, this one cannot, this one cannot, this one cannot. It's like, what makes her the authority of,
Yeah,
but
it kind of seems like that sometimes.
it does, doesn't it? I mean, like, you just imagine this like old Indian lady go, no, this cannot, no. This one you have to cut. No. It's like, but what gives her the right to be able to do that?
Yeah.
But I think now I'm sure it's no Indian lady, but now they're a bit more forgiving because, we've seen the films now in the cinemas, especially the local films, all this gangster stuff. It's actually with progress because, you can't really, now, I did a film recently called Fana.
Yeah.
And I was one of the gangsters, we were in a bar and there was drinks there.
Yeah.
And it was shown. I mean, it was on cinema and currently on Netflix. But many years ago, and I was still in industry when we was still shooting in film, you couldn't do that. The drink had to be like, some syrup-looking drink.
I mean, to be fair, you played a cross-dresser before. So,
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you have any issues with that?
No, I didn't. But
as in, like, was there any like pushback towards
I don't think so, because it was a subject that was quite. It was real because the lead actor, he won Best Actor award in the Film Festival Award in 2007. I was nominated. I lost to Dato Rahim Razali.
Wow.
I mean, you see the names that I was nominated alongside. I had Dato Rahim Razali, I had Aznil Nawawi, I had Patrick Teo, I had who was it? Zahim Al Bakri, and me. Like, all these guys are like, they're big shots,
Veterans
the veterans, and then there's me. I'm like, oh, I was just happy that I was nominated, playing a transvestite in a film. But one thing I learned from that film, which was really, really impactful, was like, I didn't want to do a caricature of a transvestite because it's so easy to get just the laughs.
Yeah.
But it was tough because we trained for at least a month, and a real transvestite taught us how to walk and all that. But we built the characters around it, and I think the biggest compliment I got was years later. I was doing a makeup, and there was this, the makeup artist came up to me and said, "I watched you years ago playing a transvestite," and I said, "Thank you." I said, "Why?" I said, "Because you didn't make a fool out of us." And to me, that's bigger than any award. To be able to do that and be able to really do it properly. But at the same time, to your questions like censorship, I mean, again, these are when you have, and it's all pretty much to the producer and director, when you have issues like this and they want to put it out, you've got to be really careful. Now it's a lot easier, I guess, because people are a lot more open and the world's a lot more.
Do you think
smaller.
so? Do you think it's a lot easier?
I think it's a lot easier now compared to last time, because there's so many issues out there. You don't even have to do it in film. It's on social media. People, but the thing is, it's gone the other way, where it's gone. Too many things are being talked about when actually it's one small issue, and like you've really gone like all this. I don't know what they call it, the woke culture, where it's like you have to identify yourself as something.
Yeah.
And I don't want to even go there because that's another whole big thing that people will be. It's a generational thing.
Just to like go back to that part. I mean, even in the best of times, there was quite a daring part to play, right? Like, was there any pressure at all that you have gotten cancelled, or like people would like think that is quite a risque role to play?
Seriously, I didn't think about it.
No?
At all.
Do you think it would be the same if it would happen today?
I don't think so. I mean, but there'll be a lot more opinions, a lot more comments, because everyone, like, at a click of a. I mean, I've put it on my TikTok.
Yeah.
Clips of it of the show, and yeah, I mean, there's been a lot of positive comments. They've been like, "Oh, was that you?" It's like, "Oh, great." They didn't recognize me, which is really great, because when you do a character and they're like, "That was literally," it was 20 years ago, but doesn't matter. I'm like, amazing that I'd be able to do a character and no one recognized me for it. And I did a lot of character actors in the past, actually, whenever I did TV or film. Started off with romantic comedies, apart from comedies, but romantic comedies. But yeah, it is tough. But yeah, I didn't feel the pressure. I think the pressure was for me as an actor or as a performer, making sure that I didn't make a fool out of myself. And that was my biggest fear, taking up that role. Because you can easily, as a comedian or comedy actor, easily play the role where you just get the laughs. I could have done that, but I didn't, because I had to stay true to the role, to the script, and obviously to my lovely director, Datuk Shadi Baba. And she was so. I mean, she gave us a lot of leeway in terms of how we built our characters and how we did our roles, and allowed me to play it. Yes, there were comedy moments on that, but a lot of it was very, there was a scene when we were younger, and yeah, we were, you could already see the characters were a bit, camp, and they got teased by people in that scene. And then the village people defended them and all that.
Yeah. So
there's a lot of stuff in there that you hear a lot of these stories in other villages and all that, and people go, "Oh, that's happened to me," So yeah, I could easily have gone the other way and just get the laughs, but I didn't want to, because you've got to be very brave in doing roles like that. You don't get roles like that often, so.
So just to go back to that point, like, why are you back?
I'm back because I really feel that there is a lot we can do to grow the industry, not just in terms of the TV industry or the film industry, but also our sports industry. We've got potential to be probably the best, I don't know what we call province now, a region in all of Malaysia. We have the potential because we have land.
Yeah.
2, we're growing. Yeah, we're people saying it's an aging nation, but We have a lot of youngsters who are talented. They just don't realize it because they haven't been given the opportunity or the tools to show that they're good, to develop them. Once we give them that, I can guarantee you'll suddenly see a lot more talent coming up. And then that will convince the parents that, hey, you can actually make money from this. You know, sports is a billions of dollars industry. And just don't think of it of just getting an athlete who makes the clothes, you know, your shoes. You can, you know, do what Li Ning did in China. They did clothes, racket. They started doing rackets first. Now they got everything, you know, trainers, blah, blah, blah. And it grew. And we have the potential to do it here as well. We have the industry to do it here as well. So I say, why not? You know, literally the world is our oyster in Sarawak. You just got to believe it. If you don't believe it, then...
Like we saw in the news recently, I think YB Snowden, was it? Like they're coming up with a plan for the arts and film in Sarawak. Like what do you want to see?
Well, basically, we just want to know what the plans are first, and then see what we can do. I mean, and we are sort of consultants, and don't care what other people say. Like, you know, I don't think anyone, and this is the only time I'm going to say it. I mean, I've said it before. No one comes close to me in terms of the experience that I've had in various parts of the industry, because I haven't been lucky. I've actually gone out there and did it. I mean, who knew that I'd be, you know, it was every guy's dream to work in a TV broadcasting, sports TV broadcasting, and get paid to watch sports, get paid to talk about sports. And I was a live TV show host, comedian, comedy actor. The other three presenters all came from news, all came from as presenters. I was the only one who was not a bona fide news presenter or whatever it was. Mm-hmm. And I had to, I convinced them. If I am able to do that, then I knew from that point, I was like, it was probably the best career move I had. But you've got to go out there and do it. If not, what's the point? And to be able to tell people, hey, if I can do it, you can do it. Especially here. Sometimes we have this lack of belief. No, it's very hard to do. You got to change that mindset and go, you can do it. And I've seen people who can do it. I mean, I've spoken to, I remember there's two actors in the first production I did, Bunyang Mujab. They were like, but after a while, after working with me, they picked up a lot of stuff. The wonderful thing about them was, I remember, I wonder I should say this. So I actually asked for the pilot episode script.
This for Tembawak, Kanyuk, right?
Tembawak, Kanyuk. And they're radio people, right? They appear now on I think YFM. Just give them a plug in the mornings and stuff. And I remember asking for the pilot episode. And you know what I got? I got a piece of paper. This is the script. I went, oh, with the ideas. So, well, how are you going to do this? Are we going to ad-lib? I said, no, that's not going to happen. Not on my watch. Have you ever written a script before? I said, no, we've got lots of ideas. And they had. I said, you've got to script it out. You've got to. So I showed them a sample script that I had, and I taught them the basics. And you know what? To their credit, 2 weeks later they came out with 13 episodes. Yeah, they're a bit short, and we just fattened out after. They came out with 13 episodes. They already had the ideas. They just weren't taught the way it was done. Once you teach them that, I'm not saying that, they're talented. Mm-hmm. They know once you tell them how to do it, they came out with it. Of course, it took a longer process to flesh it all out again. But I was so surprised, taken back, and obviously really happy the fact that, hey, all they needed was to be given the right direction and shown the way it's done. Boom.
Any insights on how you think the show did, especially among non-Sarawakian viewers?
I'm not sure. I mean, we were always asked for numbers and stuff, but it's very hard to get the ratings. But it did well on YouTube. It was like, on average 40,000 views, and this was when other shows weren't getting that kind of views unless it was Gawai or the elections. We were, it was, you know, it was, and it's in
Iban language content.
Exactly. So I remember they put it out on Instagram or the social media. That we were the third best, most watched show of that year, and the first two was elections, state elections or whatever, and Gawai, it was a Gawai celebration night, and we were the third one. It's like, wow! I mean, it's an achievement to everyone involved. But again, it goes to show that potential is there. You just gotta. But we help market the whole thing as well. So it's one thing that, you know.
Your thoughts on TVS being on Astro?
What a waste. No. I mean, yeah. I mean,
do you think it should be on terrestrial TV?
Well, it's on my TV. It's on Astro channel 1 to 2, and it's also on Unified TV, I think now. But you know, the way Sarawak is, we should be on what we call FTA, free to air, because you know we have a lot of people who still live out in the rural, in the campus now, and radio waves are still very much something that, you know, people still start listening to the radio, and TV still you can still use radio waves to broadcast, and TVS is essentially, I mean, whatever people say, is still a part of you know, our propaganda machine. You know, we should utilize it to the max.
So what's next?
Well, you know, the journey continues. There's still a lot to do in terms of convincing people, especially here, and what we need to do in terms of bringing up the industry, both industries. There's two industries I'm really interested in, obviously, the TV and film industry and the sports industry, because I do believe that we as a region or a country or whatever we want to call it, have the potential to be number one. I believe this, really believe it. But we need to, you know, believe it ourselves as well. I mean, I'm just talking generally, but but don't be proud about it. We need to learn. We need to get the experts to teach us to grow. And a lot of them are Sarawakians, and they want to come back in all aspects. Okay, I know a lot of Sarawakians out there would love to come back, but afraid because will they be taken seriously? That's the. I'll leave it at that.
Any of your peers in West Malaysia, like having a look at the scene in Sarawak here?
They want to come in. They all want to come in. I got friends who, like, you know, how do we want to come in? I don't want them to come in. It's not because I don't want them to come in, but I think the opportunity should be given to Sarawakians first. Because if we don't give it to Sarawakians, then why not? Yes, they'll come into, and I've spoken to a lot of my friends. Said, are you willing to come in to teach, to consult for a year or two? Yeah, I love it. That's how it should be done. And we've got a lot of people. I've got people. I'd love to ask my ex-colleagues in around the world, from in the UK, in Australia, and in the Middle East. They would love to come in and, you know, share their knowledge and, you know, really show you what the world is really all about. It's an awesome world.
So, like, to any Sarawakians out there who's got eyes in a career in the arts, like, what advice would you give them so they don't starve to death?
You gotta be practicing, doing your own stuff. But the thing is, remember, the arts is not just, especially in our industry, it's not just about acting. You know, learn to write, learn to do voiceovers. Many little stuff. Learn how to shoot, learn how to do lighting. Everything, audio. You know what's really lacking in Sarawak right now? Audio guys.
Oh.
Severely lacking. You just pick it up, and I guarantee you get a lot of jobs.
Oh. Audio guys. Okay.
Yeah. There's not enough. And go to, if you can afford, go learn, then come back. You don't have enough audio guys. That one I know for fact.
Okay, good to know.
Yeah.
You want to get the last word?
Yeah. God, that was long.
Yeah.
No, I mean, at the end of the day, it's just the first episode, but yeah, there's a heck of a lot more to talk about because I feel that, like I said right from the beginning, we've got a lot of potential. We have a lot of talent, but hopefully, with 2024 moving forward, we're gonna get. I'm just praying that we get a lot more good content, and there's a lot of them, like a lot of talent out there. And please come and do comedy with me.
Yep, you heard that. Comedy with me.
And on that note, that was it. That was the first episode, and I got grilled. Shouldn't be speaking so much, but I ended up speaking a lot. And after this, I'm gonna hibernate for about a week. So see you on the next edition of the RSS, or rather the Rashid Salleh show with me, Rashid Salleh, and the thekuchingite, Censorship. Bye-bye.